Roger, operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, to give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines, developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Breast cancer survivors in the spotlight. Amanda Davis has a report published October 14th shining light on breast cancer awareness. See that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The report explains how the 31st annual Pink Ribbon Tea for Breast Cancer Survivors hosted 500 attendees. Now, the event was sponsored by the Junior League of the Mahoning Valley, which aims to lift up those who are fighting or have recovered from breast cancer. Now, that's almost word for word in the report. Breast Cancer Awareness Month is what got this story in. That's story number 1 made it. Story number 2. What happened at Lake Milton? The Vindicator has another eye-opening report published October 20th out of Lake Milton explaining how the Ohio Department of Natural Resources is overseeing the investigation of a 19-year-old man who the report says drowned after falling into Lake Milton while fishing Friday night. Now, what got the story in is because it's been consistently in top headlines, thus getting it into the top 8. Now, local safety has remained consistent in top headlines. Getting the story in. That's why story number 2 made it. Story number 3. Louisville leading the way on preventing absenteeism. Susan Wagner has a report published October 21st out of Louisville explaining how the local school district will partner with Mahoning County Juvenile Court and its early warning system to improve student attendance rates. Now, this was announced at last week's school board meeting, according to the main ideas section of the article, which is almost word for word according to what's in this report. Now, the report goes on to say that more than 45 hours to 72 hours could leave a student, if they miss that many hours of school, it could leave them in juvenile court. Now, the entire report explains the action being taken to combat absenteeism, in which the report says the district has been struggling with for the past several years. Now, the report goes as far to hold parents accountable as well by requiring them to be in attendance at all hearings for their students or their children. This is wild. Now, if you did not know, the Louisville School District had a 40.3% chronic absenteeism rate last year, folks. This story is still developing to see if these extreme measures will change the results. That's story number 3 made it. Story number 4. Girard's housing plan. Bob Coupland has a report published October 17th out of Girard. The report explains how the city may be getting a new housing development plan in 2026 called Maplewood Estates Development, which will be located off of Route 422. Now, the property has 32 lots of 90, which are about 90 by 160 feet off of Route 422 and north of Oak Street and Greenwood Avenue for single, I guess the lots will be for single family homes. Now, the report explains what needs to be done to make the project happen, thus getting the story into the top 8. Now, according to Mayor Zuppo, the Seneca Woods housing development was the earliest development, which was in the early 1990s. That's why story number 4 made it this week. It's been that long. Big headline. Story number 5. Update on Canfield annexation story. JT Whitehouse has a report published October 21st out of Canfield, updating the public about Canfield's annexation plans. According to Marie Cartwright, the city will supply water and sanitary services and will retain 100% of the income tax revenue generated within the district. Now, this is all while the land remains under township jurisdiction. Now, this was part of the quote by Cartwright listed in the report in an attempt to annex portions of Canfield Township. Now, it appears that she agrees that the goal is to grow Canfield through the joint economic development districts, which is in agreement between the city and the township to share the benefits and responsibilities of development projects. Now, the article mainly focuses on the 2 township trustee seats up in the November election, but made it in because it updates residents of Canfield on the annexation story, thus getting story number 5 into the top 8. That's why I made it this week. Big story number 6. What's the fuss about the clerk of courts in Youngstown, Mahoning Valley? David Scolding has a report published October 21st explaining how political parties are seeking the resignation of Republican Michael P. Sircone. Now, the report explains how 10 months in, Sircone does not want to step down. This is after some allegations. Now, that the article goes on to talk about 9 months of dysfunction and chaos within the system. Now, it's also important to note that Jennifer J. Sircone was fired past Friday as his chief deputy and chief of staff. Now, the report states that Jennifer has gone on the record accusing Michael of having an affair with Megan Haney, who was hired to run the county's title office in August. Now, he has denied the allegation. Now, this story is still developing while petitions are being gathered to have him removed. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7. And the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Folks, if you don't get up this early, you do want to check out the show, you want to catch up on your news, I do upload this show to the website on Monday. So if you want to catch up and see what's going on, if maybe you might have missed some news, you can check out the top 8 headlines and developing news stories on the website. Story number 7, road safety is back in top headlines. Ed Runyon has a report published October 22nd after support has been flowing in for State Trooper Nicholas Caton. Now, there have been several fundraising events and headlines to raise funds for the family of the fallen trooper. Now, Caton died on October 16th on State Route 11 in Canfield while doing his job assisting a truck driver when he was then hit by another truck. Now, the report succeeds at letting the public know who Caton was as a person, calling him a devoted public servant, a courageous military veteran, and a loving husband and father. Now, the consistent news addressing road safety is what got the story in. One report published October 22nd highlighting Ohio State Highway Patrol's Teen Safety Week has also made headlines. Story number 7. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that I made this week for you. Keep you informed, folks. If you do want the show to show some support, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio. See my smiling face. Let's get to this top story. Story number 8, progress in Youngstown City schools. Sheen Barron has a report published October 21st touting progress being made in Youngstown City schools in a number of areas. Now, what got the story in is the fact that the graduation rate rose from 76% in 2018 to 85% in 2024. Now, with the rate set to climb to 90% in the upcoming school year. At least that's what the report says. Now, the article goes on to explain how Youngstown Superintendent Jeremy Batchelor is not satisfied with the numbers but wants more improvements. Now, the state report card released last month also shows improvement. Now, this is all while the district plans to downsize while serving 4,425 students and 1,139 employees. Now, the article is definitely worth a read because it succeeds at highlighting goals and challenges ahead for the school, even with the challenges to school transportation, etc. It highlights all that stuff. Now, this story is still developing. It also doesn't hurt to mention that a student in the Mahoning Valley district, I believe it's all these districts, one student aced an ACT test. That's a trending story. Thus getting these stories into the top 8. Well, folks, our top 8 local headlines developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, this is Halloween week, and this is the celebration of ghouls and goblins. Halloween has a rich history. It dates all the way back to the Celtic, I believe the Celtic tribes. Now, if you don't know that much about Halloween, then I advise you to do your research, because it is a day where kids go around, especially in the United States, that celebrates, where kids go around the houses and trick or treat. And it kind of conjures up the spirits of the dead. So this week we're talking about spirits. And do spirits exist? The first story I want to say, since we're headed into the NBA and NFL season, I want to talk about sports and how spirits could jump into athletes, folks. The first topic that we want to discuss in this mysterious show, talking about ghouls and goblins and scary stories, is spirits. Folks, as a child, me and my cousin, I won't mention his real name, but I'll just call him Moosey. And my cousin, we'll call him David. I watched when we were playing football. Now, as a child, I was a late comer to sports, so I had to develop. I often played on the line or played shrubby positions where I didn't get the ball much. But we're talking about these spirits that could jump into kids. Now, teachers often talk about they never could imagine how some of their kids could grow up and develop into either super athletes, politicians, news reporters. They don't see this as a child, but they do see the potential. So do spirits jump into people as they grow older? Could be the spirit of God, the spirit of man. These are mysteries, folks. Now, going back to the spirit story, as we talk about ghouls and goblins, one day we were on the football field. We were getting ready for our game. And I was having a terrible season. I dropped passes and just a terrible season. Our season in itself was, we were losing. But something happened one day. We don't know what happened. The wind blew. Players were down and out. We were having a lot of injuries. And some spirit jumped into my cousins. Quarterback dropped back. Threw the ball. And my cousin Moosey dived and caught the ball. Another spirit jumped in him and he started doing all these fancy moves. Spinning it. Then he jumped into the end zone. Won the game. Folks, these spirits, do they exist? Another amazing story talking about spirits. We were playing in our basketball league, the Buckeyes. I'd never been able to touch the ball, because I'm not going to lie, as a child, I was not very good at offense, but I was a good defensive player. And sometimes they would be scared to give me the ball, and because I didn't know what I was going to do, I would miss a layup or hit the ball off the backboard. I was just a terrible shooter when I was a kid, but I developed over time. But a spirit had jumped into me one game. And my cousin David passed me the ball, and I couldn't miss. I just kept shooting. Oh, something's hit me, David. Something's hit me. This is what happens in sports. A spirit jumps into an athlete, and sometimes they can't miss. The mysteries this Halloween of mysterious spirits that roam the earth. Could there be angels? Could there be demons? Mystery as we head into Halloween week. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. The real estate question. Speaking of spirits, The Hill has a headline stating that a real estate boom is coming, and asks the question of, are you ready? Now, an article by Gene Marks, an opinion contributor, serves as a consistent update on the real estate market. Now, the article begins by stating that times are not great for either the residential or the commercial real estate market and construction industries. Now, the article cites underbuilding, increased construction costs, labor shortages, and high interest rates, stating that the housing prices are at an all-time high. Folks, this story is still developing. That's what story number 1 made it. Story number 2: new pipeline project, natural gas and oil, in top headlines. CNBC has a report stating that President Donald Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, he signed an agreement on critical minerals that Albanese said includes plans for projects worth a total of up to $8.5 billion. Now, this is word for word in the first paragraph of the report. Now, the report goes on further to explain this as a framework agreement. Now, this is keeping the attention on energy. Now, Forbes has a headline stating that natural gas may save U.S. producers as oil falls. Now, each report is worth a read, showing a roller coaster ride when it comes to the future of energy decisions. Folks, this story is still developing. I believe it's Albanese or Albanese, but I'm pretty sure I got it right. Story number 2, big headline. Story number 3: the auto industry is still in top headlines. Why is this important? CBS News has a headline stating that more Americans are falling behind on their auto loan payments. Now, this is amongst all household income groups, if you did not know. Now, the report cites record high car prices and high interest rates. The report goes on to explain how auto loan delinquency rates have increased by more than 50% over the past 15 years. Folks, this is word for word in the report. Now, this is all while credit card loans, personal loans, and home equity loan delinquencies have declined. Now, this is the second week in a row that the story like this has made headlines. Story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4: states are watching how Ohio handles their property tax issues. Now, Ohio Capital Journal has put the state in the spotlight. That means Ohio. The headline states that Ohio local school leaders press for changes in the latest property tax reform bill. They wanted to see what's going on. Now, the report begins by explaining what is taking place in the state and what appears to be a rebellion by property tax owners against property taxes. Now, the situation has now led school officials from around Ohio to plead with lawmakers to stop the movement against property taxes. Now, according to the report, the two property tax reform proposals tie increases in property taxes property tax collection to inflation, so they tie these two together. Now, the article succeeds at informing the reader about the ripple effect that property tax reform would have on school budgets. Now, some districts would lose close to $2 million. Folks, this story is still developing. That's what number 4 made this week. Well, folks, our top 4 local headlines, international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with top 4. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, this week we're talking about spirits headed into Halloween. And a lot of unanswered questions. You hear people talking about paranormal activity, white noise. And since Halloween is a day where people set aside to celebrate ghouls and goblins, and kids go around trick-or-treating in America in response to the Celtic tribes years ago celebrating this Day of the Dead, or that's basically what it celebrates. It celebrates people rising, and they had movies back in the day, Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead, where bodies would come up out of their grave and chase people around and eat people, living people. Folks, these are mysteries, and we have even an ancient Egyptian culture where they mummify their dead and talk about they'd go into the underworld. So the question now is, do spirits exist? And we're talking about, do spirits jump into people? If you even read the Bible, it talks about how spirits would jump from a pig into a person, and they'd be walking and they jump in to try to get into Jesus because he had the Holy Spirit. Folks, this is real deal stuff. So we're asking ourselves, do spirits jump into people, especially in America? We've got this government shutdown, and they're talking about now that SNAP benefits may not be able to get lashed out. Now, the thing we know about SNAP benefits and food stamp card is when families get hungry and they need to sell their food stamps to make a buck, do spirit jump into them and we're going to sell our food stamps, break the law? I mean, do spirits jump into people when they need to eat, or do they need to rob somebody? And you could be walking down the street and then somebody a spirit jumping, oh God, give me your money, I'm hungry. People just want to go into the store. Everybody on the ground right now. Do a spirit just jump into people on planes? We are here to hijack the plane. Do spirits just jump into people? Or do people just do it themselves? Does the devil jump into somebody when they just want to rebel, when they get angry? There's a lot of stories about when John Lennon was killed. I don't know if I read this in criminology books where they said the person who killed John Lennon, they say he prayed to the demons so he could have the strength to kill John Lennon. And that's what he said, folks. So we asking ourselves, do spirits this Halloween, ghouls and goblins, jump into people, folks? Whew, big question. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. The economy is still in top headlines. Market Watch has a snapshot of the economic picture, touching on the fact that some Americans feel like everything is falling apart. Now, the article starts out with a testimony, then swings into uncertain vibes as the person talks about an uncertain feeling about being laid off. Now, the article also talks about the person's uncertain feeling about his stock portfolio and tries to put the reader into the mind of the average person in today's economy. Now, what got this story in is the fact that the mindset of everyday Americans depends on which side of the fence that they're on. You can be on the wealthy side, poor side, or middle class. Now, the article's main talking point homes in on the fact that even with some good economic indicators, some people still feel down in the dumps due to uncertainty and inflation. Let's get into the stories to the top 8. That's why story number 5. Story number 6, the unemployment concerns. MoneyWise has a headline stating that unemployment filings have hit their highest level since 2021. The headline goes on to say that this is a warning sign for the U.S. job market. Now, the report starts by stating that the number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits during the first week of September rose to 263,000, according to the Labor Department. And we got the story in is because it's 30,000 higher than economists predicted. Now, job security was also mentioned in the report. Folks, this story is still developing. So story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 of the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, if you don't get up this early, you do want to catch up on your news, you can check out the show. I do upload to the website on the screen on Mondays. So if you don't get up this early, you can check out the show. Story number 7. The job market is still in top headlines. Here's why. Fortune has a headline stating that this is the worst the job market has looked in 50 years, according to Goldman Sachs. Now, the report states 3.8 8% estimated GDP growth in quarter number 2 and 3.3% in quarter number 3, with missing data due to the government shutdown, I guess, for quarter number 4. Now, the entire piece serves as a snapshot with projections and predictions, but made it in due to the continued uncertain vibes circulating around the job market. The markets, period, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 7 also made to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do want the show to show some support, folks, it doesn't take much. This independent local program that I pour out to the masses every week. You can either visit the website on the screen and buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and buy something in the store. It doesn't take much. Let's get to this top story. Story number 8, SNAP benefits a topic of concern as the shutdown drags on. Folks, 2 updates coming out of the government shutdown drag in this, I'll just call it the shutdown drag, is I guess his headline in 2 articles. They talking about the shutdown drag. This is the topic in 2 headlines. Now, one Axios report states that a shutdown could halt SNAP benefits for millions. The other headline is in Time, stating that SNAP benefits could be delayed due to the government shutdown. Now, each report serves as a warning sign for everyone watching the saga unfolding in the government shutdown story. Now, the big picture, as stated in the report, is that the funding lapse is dragging on with no sign of a deal to reopen the government, which could eventually hit poor families the worst and trickle up. Now, this story is still developing. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, there are top 8 local headlines developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 internet. Well, those are top. Wait, let me get this right. Check this right, folks. Those are getting a blooper on air, folks. Those are our top 8 local and international headlines developing news stories that I made this week. It's the spirit. I'll be right back next week with the top 8 stories, folks. I hope you got something out of today's program. Always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator going through your stories every week to give people the top 8. Folks, if you do want the show to show some support, it doesn't take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Folks, I hope you got something out of today's program. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 more stories just to keep you informed. I hope you have a happy and safe Halloween if you celebrated it. If not, boo, I'm out of here. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to me this week. Me, Brian West. I'm going to make an ugly face for Halloween. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.